10 times iCarly made us cry. iCarly was once one of the most popular television shows, though it was abruptly canceled in 2012 when several stars decided to leave the show. Today, we will be looking back on 10 times iCarly made us cry. But before we get started, remember to hit that like button so we know who the real iCarly fans are. iCarly's inception. iCarly was one of Nickelodeon's most popular sitcoms in the mid to late 2000s. The show acted as somewhat of a follow-up to the incredibly successful show Drake and Josh. It featured Miranda Cosgrove, who also acted in Drake and Josh as its lead character, and the show's namesake. Other cast members included Jeanette McCurdy, Nathan Kress, Jerry Traynor, and Noah Monk. The show followed the life of a young girl named Carly, who had a wildly successful internet show. She hosted the show in the attic of her apartment, which she shared with her older brother Spencer. The plot of the show followed iCarly and friends' rise to internet stardom, while also having to deal with the struggles of high school and teenage life. The show was nominated for awards several times, and even though the show wasn't necessarily a hit with television critics, it proved to be incredibly popular with its intended audience. The show's final episode aired in November of 2012, with a 2010 episode of iCarly holding the record for being the most watched episode in Nickelodeon history. Miranda Cosgrove recalled the ending of the series, saying that the show needed to end because she planned on going to college. She mentioned in an interview that as soon as the show wrapped up, she packed her things and headed to the University of Southern California. She didn't even take time off to collect her thoughts. She immediately packed and left. It's also important to note that when the series began with Miranda, she was just 14 years old. The other actors were quite young as well, which is part of the appeal of the show. Though as they grew older, the show was beginning to dramatically change. Rather than continue to shift the overall plot and concept of the show, the actors and Nickelodeon both felt that it was time to end the series. Though fans hated to see the series go, the final episode was one of the highest rated iCarly episodes ever, a fitting end for such an incredibly well-written series. iPsycho. iPsycho is one of iCarly's more memorable episodes. This was a double-length episode that Nickelodeon advertised as a movie. The episode saw Carly and a gang being invited to a birthday party by a young girl named Nora. The young girl's parents had left town on her birthday, so Carly, Sam, and Freddie decided to help cheer the girl up. However, when the party ends, Nora traps the three in her basement, claiming that they were angels sent to change her life. The group manages to craft a secret message and send it to Gibby, asking him to rescue them. At the time, Gibby was at home saddened by the fact that he wasn't allowed to go with them. While considering the list of things he could stay home and do, Gibby says that he will likely watch reruns of Different Strokes, a series starring Gary Coleman. When the episode aired, Gary Coleman had passed away just a week prior, sending chills down the spines of many viewers. I Quit iCarly. This was another popular episode from Season 3 that saw the iCarly website nearly canceled. The iCarly crew was invited to make a guest appearance on another popular show called Dave and Fleck, though they soon learned that Dave and Fleck are far from best friends that they had appeared to be on screen. As the relationship begins to crumble, Carly and Sam pick sides, with Carly siding with Dave and Sam siding with Fleck. Carly and Sam eventually get into an argument, stepping out onto a window washer platform. One of the cables on the platform breaks, sending Carly sliding down the platform. Spencer spots Carly just in time from a parking lot a few miles away. He uses a rope to rescue Carly, with the group holding each other and sobbing in one another's arms when they reach the ground. In a heartwarming turn of events, Carly and Sam reunite and regain each other's trust. I Want a World Record. Season 1, Episode 10 of iCarly sees the gang working to break a world record. Another online show had gained a world record for the longest running webcast, taking place over 24 hours and 8 minutes. Carly and her friends believe they can beat the record and decided to conduct an incredibly long webcast. However, as they are just 4 seconds shy of breaking the record, Spencer powers on a giant moving sculpture he had been creating downstairs. This causes the power to go out for the whole building, abruptly ending Carly's chances of breaking the world record. Though Spencer soon learns that his massive sculpture broke a record of its own. To make it up to the iCarly cast, Spencer asks that they each place a final piece on the sculpture so they can appear in the world record book alongside him. Christmas. This episode was a serious tearjerker for most viewers. The plot sees Spencer creating a large electromagnetic Christmas tree, though the tree mistakenly catches fire, burning the presents that Carly had purchased for Spencer. Outraged, Carly screams that she wishes that Spencer had been born normal. Her guardian angel soon appears and grants Carly this wish, showing her what life would be like if Spencer had been a more normal brother. As it would turn out, in this reality, Sam had ended up in jail. Freddie was dating an incredibly hateful girl. Spencer Spencer had become engaged to Freddie's mother, and Carly was happily dating Neville Papperman, her previous nemesis. Worse yet, the iCarly studio was simply a storage room for old boxes. Carly regrets her wish and pleads for her life to return to normal. Her guardian angel grants this, taking Carly back to the present day with a more humble perspective. I do. Episode 5 from Season 4 is an episode that cements how wholesome iCarly can be. A fan of iCarly's webcast named Gordon plans to get married, though the wedding takes a dramatic turn when the groom suddenly gets cold feet. The wedding was nearly a disaster, but Carly stepped up and sang her song Shakespeare to the bride when the groom found himself unable to, essentially saving their marriage. There wasn't a dry eye to be found in America when this episode aired. I Want to Stay with Spencer. This episode was one of the first emotional episodes the series had seen. Airing during Season 1, I Want to Stay with Spencer saw Carly getting an unexpected visit from her grandfather. Carly is nearly decapitated by Spencer's latest invention, a fan made from hammers. Because of this, her grandfather believes Carly is unsafe while living with Spencer, forcing Carly to come live with him in Yakima. The episode sees Carly unwilling to move, yet steadily making arrangements to end the iCarly webcast and abandon her friends. Though as she is leaving with her grandfather, Spencer reminds Carly to take her inhaler, even though she hasn't needed it in many years. Her grandfather sees how caring and thoughtful Spencer truly is, allowing her to stay. OMG. This was a landmark episode for iCarly. Freddie and Sam had always had a pretty aggressive relationship with one another. Sam always pulled pranks on Freddie and made him the butt of every joke. However, their high school decided to have a lock-in, in which students stay overnight at the school to finish projects they had been working on. Freddie, Sam, and Brad team up on a project to create a mood-reading app for their tablet. The app works, and Freddie learns that Sam is in love, believing it to be with Brad. Freddie and Carly work to set the two up, but Sam insists she isn't in love with Brad. As Freddie has a heart-wrenching conversation with Sam outside of the school, Sam abruptly cuts him off and kisses him. She had been in love with Freddie the whole time. I cook. This episode had several twists and turns, but the part that we care most about is Spencer's role in this one. Spencer was nearly electrocuted by Sam's locker, causing him to have a vision that he hugged Nug Nug, a popular character from the Galaxy Wars series. The encounter took place at Groovy Smoothie, so Spencer rushed to the restaurant, excited to meet one of his favorite characters. He waits for several hours, but ultimately decides to leave when no one shows up. He feels incredibly heartbroken as he exits the building, but just as he makes his way to the door, Nug Nug walks in. Having been at a local convention, the two embrace, just as Spencer had dreamed. I party with Victorious. This episode was one of the most beloved by many fans of the series Victorious. This was a mashup between the two shows, but mostly revolved around Carly and her new boyfriend Steven. Sam finds out that Steven had been cheating on Carly, so she sets out to prove it. Carly refuses to believe, telling Sam, "Steven told me I'm one of a kind." Sam responds with a real gut kicker. "Yes, and my dad once told my mom he was coming back." Geez, Sam, take it easy on the girl. I love you. This episode was somewhat of a follow-up to IOMG, further explaining the relationship between Sam and Freddie. As it would turn out, Spencer has become involved in an unhealthy relationship with Jenna, his past babysitter. Sam and Freddie liken their relationship with one another to that of Spencer's. While locked in an elevator, they explain why their relationship simply wouldn't work out in the long run, ultimately deciding to break up. Though as the elevator opens up into Carly's apartment, Sam begins to exit. Though before she can, Freddie proudly proclaims his love for Sam. She turns around and admits that she loves him as well. The two kiss once again as the elevator door closes, ending the episode. Needless to say, iCarly has seen many heartwarming yet sad moments over the years. This was by far one of the greatest shows to ever air on Nickelodeon, and it seems as though the network has been searching for a worthy replacement ever since the series ended over 8 years ago. We'd love to see more from the iCarly cast one day, but for now, it seems as though the series has already seen its end.